Hey guys, it's Lewis from Recycle Bicycle Sales here. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to remove the rear wheel on your electric bike. So there's a few reasons you might actually want to remove the rear wheel on your bike. It could be things like maybe you've got a flat tire and you need to replace the tube. It could be that the bike's not fitting in the car as well as you hope, so you need to make it seem a little bit smaller. Could be a multitude of different reasons. They're probably the first two that come to mind. When we are removing the rear wheel on an electric bike, it's very similar to a normal bike, but sometimes there's a couple of extra steps, so it might seem a little bit more difficult. That's why we wanted to make a video about it. Let's dive straight into it. The first thing I'll say here is removing the front wheel is pretty much the same as just the normal bike. There's not really a whole lot that's different with an electric bike versus just a normal analog bike, unless you've got something special going on down there. Like maybe you've got the motor built into the front wheel. If you do, there's maybe one extra step, which I'll mention later in this video while we're doing the rear wheel. First step is we're gonna power off the bike and we're gonna turn it upside down. We could use a work stand, but I imagine that this is a job that we're trying to do on the side of the road, so you probably don't have your big trusty work stand from home. So step number one on the side of the road is turn the bike off, which it already is, and we're going to flip it upside down. Watch, you might have a mud guard on the back, so just be careful when you're rolling it back as well. Cool, step one complete. Now that the bike's up down, the next step is to put it into the smallest cog at the back. We're trying to put the chain into the smallest cog. That's gonna take the most tension off of the chain. If you've been watching our videos for a while about removing wheels and cutting chains and whatever, you already know this step, but we'll talk about it here again. So we're literally going to reach down to the shifter and we're gonna click on the harder cog button all the way down, and then we're just gonna pedal all the way through until we're down in that smaller cog there. And now we've got the least amount of tension on the chain, easiest to remove the rear wheel. Step number three is a step that we only have to do when we've got these rear wheel drive motors. There's two types of electric bike, two main types. We can have hub driven or we can have direct drive. On these fancy direct drive ones, tends to be the more sort of higher end bikes. The motor is built into the bottom bracket and built into the frame, so there's no extra cables that are going into the back wheel. It's just the normal back wheel. Whereas when we're looking at these electric bikes, which this video is talking about, we might have a hub driven motor. So the rear hub, or sometimes the front hub, is the motor. That means that power has to go from the battery all the way down to the rear wheel. So that's where this next step comes in. There's usually a cable at the back, this one here, which you'll have to disconnect. It's a little bit tight, and we're literally just gonna pull it straight out. That's all that we have to do here, so that now no power is able to go through to the rear wheel and we're able to completely remove it. Again, this step only matters on the hub driven, doesn't matter on the direct drive. Sometimes, once we've disconnected it, there might be a zip tie that's holding this cable in place onto the frame. You're gonna need to cut that zip tie, so you might need to grab your side cutters or cable cutters or a set of scissors, or you might just have to like rip it off or something like that, but there might be a zip tie in place that you might have to remove. Now we're ready to actually undo the wheel. We're gonna undo the nut that's on both sides. On a typical like racing road bike, it might just be a quick release system or it might be a simple Allen key. On the electric bike, it's a little bit different. Most electric bikes that I've seen will have a nut on both sides, and we have to undo both of those nuts quite a bit. It could be either an Allen key, whether it's a 5mm or a 6mm, or it could even be a spanner. Most of the ones that I've seen are either a 15mm or a 17mm spanner, but either or, work out what size you need, because we'll have to undo both sides. This example here uses a 5mm Allen key. So now we're ready to actually undo the wheel. So you'll reach down, undo both sides quite a bit. And again, this one is a simple Allen key, and we'll undo it quite a lot, but we don't have to take it all the way off. And now, as far as I'm aware, it should be ready to completely jiggle loose. What I like to do when I'm pulling up on it is I put my foot on the saddle, because I'm gonna be pulling up. I don't want the bike to lift up. I just want the wheel to lift up. And this derailleur here, I'm gonna try and push this part back as far as I can so that it's easy to remove everything off of there. Perfect, and now your rear wheel is removed and you're able to do whatever it is that you needed to do, replace the tube, replace the tire, put it in the back of the car, whatever it is, you can do that now. So we're gonna skip over that and we're gonna talk about how to reinstall it, because this is where it can sometimes get a little bit difficult. So the reason that I say that this is slightly more difficult is on a normal racing bike or a normal analog non-electric bike, the actual axle that goes all the way through is perfectly circular. It's perfectly round and it can fit in any direction. There's no way the wheel can be upside down. Whereas when we're looking at these hub-driven electric bike wheels, the axle that's normally perfectly cylindrical has flat edges on it now, so it's almost like an oval shape now. It will only fit into the dropouts one way. I'll show you a close-up of what that looks like. So if it's not lined up perfectly, you'll be sitting there for half an hour thinking, why isn't this going in straight? So that's why I also think flipping over the bike upside down is a little bit easier than trying to put the wheel in with the bike sitting upright, because you're able to line everything up perfectly while it's upside down. As you can see, this piece here is flat, and we've got a little lip up here, which is part of this nut that we've got up here. So we need to make sure that that lip lines up perfectly inside the frame so that the frame can sit up against this flat edge, because it won't sit up against this threaded part. Now that we're ready to reinstall the wheel, the first thing here might seem a little bit obvious, but I'll mention it anyway. Make sure that the gears are on the side that the chain is on, and you've got the brake rotor that's on the side that the brakes are on. And now we can talk about how we're going to line this up. Remember before we were talking about how there's a little lip on that nut? We need to make sure that that lip is going to sit at the top of the dropout, or the top while it's upside down, but the bottom if the bike was the right way up. Anyway, only up and down. It can't be going forwards and backwards. So we're just going to slowly bring it down close. We'll get the chain over the top so that the cassette is between the two sections of chain here. Pull this part back like we did when we were taking it off. And we're just going to slowly bring it down. Now on the other side, we're also trying to line the brake rotor up so it goes through the brake pads like that. And then we can make sure that it sits in place, and it literally just fell in place there. I'll get another closer up shot of what it actually looks like when it slots into place, so you can see what I mean about how it has to be perfect. Cool. If you're getting stuck and it's definitely just not going in because the lip that's on this shiny black piece here isn't lining up perfectly, it's because the wheel isn't in straight. So we've literally got to lift it up, spin the entire wheel so that we can then drop it back into place. And now it's in safely. Now that we've got the wheel sitting in place and we've got gravity on our side, because gravity is pulling the wheel back down into the dropouts, we can grab our Allen key or spanner, whatever we use to undo the wheel, and now we're going to re-tighten it up. My trick when tightening it up is to tighten up one side until you feel a bit of tension, and then move across to the other side. We won't do one side completely tight straight away. We want to kind of balance both sides. So a little bit tight on one side, a little bit more tight on the other side, and then we'll go back and forth once or twice. Cool, and now we're ready to go. While the bike is upside down, now would be a really good chance to spin the wheel and just see if the brake rotor is rubbing as well. If the brake rotor is rubbing, it means it was either rubbing before, or it might mean that the wheel's not in perfectly straight. We can double check all those things right now. So if the brake is rubbing and it doesn't seem like it's in perfectly, my trick would be loosen both sides, jiggle the wheel, push it down a little bit, make sure it's actually sitting all the way in the dropouts, and then tighten up both sides again. Hopefully it should fix itself. Second to last step is reconnect the cable. When we look at the cable here, there'll always be two arrows. These two arrows need to line up with each other. It can't be that one's up here and one's down here. They have to line up perfectly because there's a bunch of wires inside that'll clip into each other. If it's a little bit off center, they won't actually clip in. So make sure that you line up the two arrows. Also, if you cut off a zip tie while you were removing that cable, now's a pretty good chance to replace it while it's upside down and easy to get to. But otherwise, you're all good to go. You can flip the bike back over and you are literally all ready to go for a bike ride. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you've learned a couple of tips about how to remove the rear wheel on your electric bike. If you reckon there's anything that we've missed, or maybe you reckon that we skipped over a step that you think is quite important, let us know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear it all. Otherwise, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.